the waterfall question, wherein I'm asking you the question about problem framing. What's on your mind when you think about problem framing? I hope you're going through the learning materials shared on the portal as well. If not, please do take time out to go through those. But the question in front of you right now, and put the answers in the chat, which is, when you think about problem framing, what are the questions that are currently on your mind? What is the right way to frame a problem? Okay, how to do the problem framing? Okay, what is the problem? Okay,
Define the problem statement, right?
okay, define the problem statement, right? Okay, outcome, problem, solution, finding the right problem, understanding the root cause of the problem. Why is it important? Okay, what does problem framing solve? Okay, can there be multiple problems in the problem statement? Okay, collecting problem statements. Why do we need to frame the problem? Okay, breaking down the problem. Don't jump into solutions without understanding the root cause. Okay, okay, who is facing the problem? What and why did the problem occur? Okay, okay, analyzing your findings, directing us to the right problem to solve. Okay, converting user data into insights and defining a problem to go after. Okay, what problems are the most important ones? Okay, how might we? Okay, what are we aiming to solve? Understanding the problem. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for putting out those thoughts and questions on the chat. Is everyone ready? Give me a quick yes. I hope you've had your morning breakfast and your cup of coffee or tea and you're all set. So let's show that energy on the chat and we'll get started. All right. Wonderful. So, a quick recap of the things that we've learned so far, right? As product managers, designers, or analysts, our fundamental role is to help grow the business. That's one of the mindset shifts that is required. You cannot think about your role being to write product requirements documents or business requirements documents or even shipping out some Figma files. You have to first change your mindset that you are thinking about how to grow the business. And how does the growth come from? The growth comes from solving customer problems and business problems. Okay. What are the right products to build? How to approach it? You don't want to build something just because it can be built. You don't want to jump onto solving a problem just because you've spotted a problem. What you want to do is to become an outcome thinker, understand the desired outcome. Why is that important? And then work backwards from there to figure out what is it that you should be focused on. Now, as you start off on your career in product, analytics, or design, what you'll find yourself doing primarily is you will find that a problem has been given to you and you are asked to solve the solution, come up with the solution, right? That's how entry level roles usually are. Okay. You start off your career by actually working a lot on the solution part of it. But as you move up in your career, what you'll find is you are spending a lot more time in the problem space, understanding the problem, who is facing the problem, why is this important to solve this problem, and things like that. Okay. Just think about it. Someone who is heading design in an organization, do you think that person is working on Figma files and shipping out Figma files? No, right? Someone who is heading the product team, do you think that person is writing product requirements, documents, and things like that? No. What are they doing then? Right? They are doing a lot of what we call as the strategic stuff. And what have we learned about strategy? Strategy is based on insights. Insights come from data. Data, there are four sources, right? That's basically they're spending a lot of time in the problem side of things, figuring out what the problems are, which are the important problems, and that is where problem framing becomes such an important skill to have. Okay. And I have seen in my kind of 1.5 decades of working in this technology space that those who actually master the problem framing part of it, they rise up the ladder very, very fast. Why? Because they are able to align their stakeholders really, really well, which is why this becomes such an important skill set to have, right? Have you ever been taught how to frame problems? I guess not. Typically in school also, a problem has been given to you, you have been asked to come up with a solution, right? That's how we've been brought up. So this is a new thing that you're going to learn, right? On how to frame the problem. And what you'll find is it is no rocket science. It is just a different way of thinking. Okay. So the focus should always be on the problem, not on the solution. Why? Because the solution will always keep getting iterated upon. You will never get the solution right in the first go. You will always have to improvise, improve the solution, and gradually make it better, right? But the important part always is to be obsessed with the problem. A lot of folks think about the solutions first. No, that's the fundamental kind of mindset shift that you need to bring out, which is obsess over the problem, understanding the problem really, really well. Because if you understand the problem really, really well, the solution will present itself in front of you. Okay. Now, let's say I tell you that once you have spotted a problem, before jumping on to solving that problem, you should
ऊपर है मम्मी.
always ask two questions which will help you figure out whether this is a problem worth going after or not.
तार को हटा तुम.
Okay. So let's say, Achal, I tell you that, Achal, before you jump on to solving any problem, you should always ask two questions which will help you decide whether this is a problem worth going after or not. Okay, we always talk about prioritization, and most people get prioritization wrong because they think about prioritization at a solution level. That's the second level of prioritization. Prioritization happens at two levels. First is prioritizing the problem. Only if you have prioritized the problem can you prioritize the solution. Okay? And most people do not talk about prioritizing the problem. You will see, and you might have read a lot of articles on prioritization frameworks like rice, dal, khichdi, all those frameworks that are there. Right? They all talk about prioritizing the solution. That given so many solutions, how do you prioritize? Right? But there is a step before that, which is prioritizing the problem. And these two questions help you prioritize the problem. So, Achal, tell me this. How would you actually figure out whether this is a problem worth going after or not? What are the two questions you should ask?
We can first ask who are the customers facing the problem,
Okay.
and
How does that help
how
you
do
prioritize? Let's
we
say you
can
get an
quantify.
answer to that question, that who is facing the problem. Okay. How does that help you prioritize whether to work on that problem or not?
Well, it can help us in segmenting first of all and understanding if that is a real problem that the segment is facing and something that we should be solving or looking to
But
find a
how does that
solution.
help you figure out that, okay, this is a problem worth going after, this is not a problem worth going after? Let's say you figure out that Megha is facing a problem and Sanjana is facing a problem. How do you decide whether to go and solve the problem Megha is facing or the problem that Sanjana is facing?
Maybe we can opt for the method that we learned around the five eyes and then the so what.
Okay, so if you go to the five whys, you will basically understand what is causing the problem. Okay, but how does that help? Let's say you understand what is causing the problem for Megha and what is causing the problem for Sanjana. But how do you still decide which problem to go after?
Yeah. I'm a little confused.
That's okay. Think about it. Let's kind of understand how you're thinking about it.
So, what is the percentage of issues occurring? So, based on that, we can prioritize P0, whether it's a P0 or P1.
Percentage of issues. But what does that mean? Percentage of issues occurring. P0
Means
and
like
P1 is the severity. How severe is the problem, right? But how do you figure out which problem to go after? Achal, I'm not going to let you go yet. Tell me how do you think about it?
Yeah, I was
Um,
actually thinking in the lines of segmentation only. Like after that,
So
maybe
how does
we'll know.
segmentation help? So let's play it out, right? Let's say you're thinking on the lines of segmentation. How does segmentation help you in prioritizing whether this is a problem worth going after or not?
Like we'll have the kind of data with the research. It will be backed by research and data, right? So we can understand it in terms of quantity or the number of users who are coming across the same issue.
Okay, and how does that actually impact your decision making? So you'll figure out the number of people facing that issue. How does that impact your decision
it
making?
affects the business outcome, if I'm not wrong. So the severity of how the business is getting affected, I think in that way, problem can be prioritized.
Okay, okay. So basically, there are always two questions that you should ask whenever you've spotted a problem. Okay, and that will help you to figure out whether this is a problem worth going after or not. The first question to ask is, what is the value that you are going to unlock if you solve this problem? Many times we use the word as impact. What is the impact that it can create if we go after this particular problem? Right? And the second one is, why is it so important to go and solve this problem now? Why can't we wait to solve this problem? These two questions will always help you decide which problem to go after. If any of you are interested in building a startup venture at some point of your career, these two questions will again come back to you. Why? Because you have to figure out which opportunity to go after, which is what in pitch deck templates you will see as the opportunity size. You have to quantify the opportunity size. Why? Because that's what the potential impact can be. And the second slide that you would usually see in pitch deck templates is why now? Why are you in the right time to actually solve this particular problem? Why now is a very important question. Okay? Impact and urgency. These are the two things always. What is the impact of solving this particular problem? What is the potential impact that I can get by solving this problem? And the second is, what is so very urgent that I cannot wait to actually solve this problem? I have to do it now. Okay? Impact and urgency. These are the two questions which will always help you decide which problem to prioritize. Only after you have prioritized the problem can you go after prioritizing the solution. Okay, is everyone clear? Give me a quick yes if you have followed it so far, because then we'll get into the case. All right, wonderful. So now let's take an example and learn all the things that we have learned so far and try to connect all the dots. Okay, get your pen and paper as well. You might want to kind of solve it as we move forward. Okay, so in this case, what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about a metric called conversion in the context of an e-commerce platform. How are we defining conversion? Conversion is being defined as total number of orders divided by total number of visits. Okay? Conversion is equal to total number of orders divided by total number of visits. Okay? Everyone clear about the metric definition? How we are defining conversion? Okay? All right. Now I'm going to take you back in time, 10 years back in time. Okay? We're going to talk about the year 2015. What happened in 2015? In 2015, Flipkart launched the world's very first progressive web app, which we call as PWA, in collaboration with Google. Okay? So let me first explain to you what progressive web app is, why did we do this, and all of that. Right? Give me the next 5 minutes is story time, right? So that you guys can understand the context of it. Okay. All right. So around 2014, what happened was there are a lot of mobile phones being bought on Flipkart. Okay. What are mobile phones? Smartphones. Smartphones are nothing but a mini computer, right? So which basically means if someone is buying a smartphone, that person is going to get access to the internet, right? And we basically said if we know who all are buying smartphones, we will be able to understand what the internet penetration is going to be like in India, correct? And the data was showing us a very interesting trend. A lot of the people who were buying smartphones from Flipkart were actually coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, okay? Which basically pointed us in the direction that a lot of the internet traffic is gradually now going to come from tier 2, tier 3 cities. Earlier, it was coming primarily from metro and tier 1 cities. Okay. Now, why is that important? Because so far, Flipkart had built out its entire customer base on metro and tier 1 cities. Okay. And now we were seeing a trend which was basically showing us that a lot of the internet traffic is now going to come from tier 2, tier 3 cities. So if we have to keep growing, we have to increase our market share in tier 2, tier 3 city users. Okay. So the company strategy, basically Sachin and Vinny called all of us saying that, okay, the Flipkart's strategy now is that we have to increase market share in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Okay. We understood about company strategy in week one, if you remember, right? We talked about company strategy. Where is strategy derived from? From insights. Insights come from data. One of the data points which is coming in out here was the market data, where we were looking at the company's performance and the metrics, etc. And we were seeing clear user behavior data saying that a lot of tier 2, tier 3 city customers were buying smartphones, which basically pointed us to the direction that going forward, the future would look somewhat like a lot of internet traffic coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities. And which is why it's important for Flipkart to actually start thinking about how to grow market share in these cities. Company strategy laid out. Now, the next thing is product strategy. So, what do you do then, right? So, the goal is clear, the objective is clear, but how do you actually increase your market share, right? Now, when we actually started doing the user research, okay, with these tier 2, tier 3 city users, we started observing a pattern. In user research, you are always fishing for patterns, right? You're trying to see what is it that a lot of people are saying, which we need to actually understand, right? And one of the things which we heard a lot of people saying was something like this. They said, every night before I go to sleep, I would hit the install app button on the Play Store. And I would be lucky if by the time I wake up the next morning, the app would have been installed. Now you might be thinking, what world is Arindam talking about? Right? Now keep in mind, this is 2014, 2015. Right now, you are used to 5G. At that time, there was no 5G business. There was only 2G. Okay. The smartphones that you have right now are 256 GB, 512 GB, and all of that. Right? At that time, it was 8 GB. Okay. Moto E, Moto G, and all of those kind of phones. Okay. So slower network speeds and limited storage space. Okay. On your smartphone, you would already have a WhatsApp, you would already have a Facebook, you'd already have a YouTube, you would already have maybe one or two games like Candy Crush and all of that. Where is the space? Okay. And second is networks speeds were not that great. So you hit the install app button, but after loading for some time, it will just basically say installation cancelled. Okay, or internet interrupted, connection interrupted, and you cannot install. Right. So this was the world. Okay, and we heard a lot of people say this. When we heard this, the question on our mind was very straightforward. That remember in the first session we talked about ecosystem, and we said like there are a lot of players in the ecosystem that you have to take care, that you have to think about, right? There's a network, there's a device, there's an operating system, and so on and so forth. In this case, you had no control on the device, you had no control on the network, yet that was impacting your business, right? Because people are not even able to access Flipkart. Forget use Flipkart. They're not even, I'm not even able to get them to access Flipkart, right? So if I have to increase my market share, I have to improve on the accessibility part of it first. I'll need to make sure that users are able to access Flipkart, which is a problem right now. So we started thinking about how to solve for that, right? So this was the Flipkart side of the story. A similar kind of a story was playing out several thousands of miles away in Silicon Valley in the Google headquarters. What was happening at Google? Google's entire business model, if you think about it, what is that based on? Advertising, right? Largely. Google is able to run ads and make money out of it. Why? Because it is able to target the right users. How is Google able to target the right users? Because Google has a big weapon with it, which is called Google Chrome. Okay? 90% of the world's internet traffic comes via Google Chrome, internet website traffic. So it has a 90% market share. If there is anything called monopoly, this is what monopoly looks like. 90%. Okay? Now, Google was also seeing an interesting trend, which was that in a lot of emerging markets like India, Brazil, and so on, a lot of the internet traffic was coming via smartphones. And on those smartphones, Google Chrome's market share was not 90%, was not 80%, not 70%, not 60%, not 50%, not 40%. It was in the 30% range. Okay? And for Google, it was a big warning sign. Why? Because Google realized that if a lot of the internet traffic in the future is going to come from tier 2, tier 3 markets, emerging markets, and those markets are the ones where I do not have a large market share, then it will impact my ads business. As simple as that. Right? So who were the ones which were number 1 and number 2? I don't know how many of you would remember. There was a company called UC Browser. There were browsers like Opera Mini, right? And they were the ones which had a higher market share at that point in time on mobile browsers that you use on the smartphone. Okay? So for Google, it was very clear that if we have to win this market, we have to increase our market share in these emerging markets for Google Chrome. There's no other way. Okay? And that is where both the worlds collided. Flipkart trying to increase market share for Flipkart in tier 2, tier 3 city markets in India. Google trying to increase its Chrome browser share in the emerging markets. Okay? And that's where both the teams started collaborating. Right? And lucky to have been part of those teams out there to drive that collaboration. But one of the things that came out of that collaboration was that we reimagined the open web. Okay? And basically we started asking these questions that why is it that someone would use the mobile web versus the app when the app has significantly better functionalities. For example, through the app, you could send notifications. On the website, you could not send notifications back then. Okay? On the app, if you install the app icon will sit on your smartphone, on your home screen. On the website, if you go to the website, even if you are a loyal website user, there is no way to add that icon on your home screen. On the app, you would build an experience which will be buttery smooth when you are scrolling and playing games and all of that. Right? It's a native app experience versus on the website, whenever you build websites, if you scroll on a particular web page, the page would be janky like that, as we call it, right? So a lot of those functionalities were missing on the websites, right? On the web overall. And we tried to figure out, okay, what if we were able to build the open web which could support a lot of these functionalities? And that's what led to building out the progressive web app architecture or the PWA architecture. Right now, most websites would be built on the PWA architecture. The PWA architecture allows you to send web notifications. A lot of you, when you go to a site, they will ask you, right? This site wants to send you notifications, allow, block, right? This site wants to get your location permission, allow, block, right? Those things were not available, by the way, 10 years ago. Okay. You are using the newer version of the mobile or of the open web. And that's what the progressive web app actually allows you to do, right? Right now, if you go to a particular site, if you actually you can add that site as your home screen. On your home screen, the icon will sit on your home screen for the smartphone. So those functionalities are there. So that's basically how Flipkart became the first progressive web app in the world, and collaborating with Google, this was launched. This was end of 2015 when we launched it. Okay. Amidst a lot of fanfare, we were on the global stage talking about it. A lot of companies were reaching out to us. We were the global pioneers in this case, right? So we were obviously on the global stage. A lot of PR and things like that happened, right? Great from a technology kind of standpoint. But at the end of the day, you have to be accountable for the business results. Okay. No matter how fancy a technology you build, the end of the day, questions always come back to in terms of business metrics, right? So now I'm going to show you what happens 1 year later, end of 2016. Okay. End of 2016, 1 year has passed, and now we are looking at the data. Okay. Is everyone understanding the context? Give me a quick yes in the chat so that I know everyone's followed the context in which the case is set. Okay, lovely. So this is now the data that we are looking at end of 2016, which means there is 1 year worth of data now with us. What is the data showing? The x-axis is the weeks, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, all the way to week 52. So I have 52 weeks of data, 1 year's worth of data. And the y-axis is basically the conversion rate. The blue line indicates the conversion rate of the mobile site. The red line indicates the conversion rate of the Android app. The spikes that you see are because of the sale events, big billion days, big shopping days, and all of that, where the conversion rate automatically spikes because of the high discount rates. Okay? Remember, in systems thinking, we said one of the tools to use is behavior over time graphs, which is you are visualizing the data over a longer period of time, which many times uncovers patterns for you. Okay? This is an example of that. All right? So we looked at the data. When you look at the data, what are the immediate questions that come to your mind by looking at this data? Let's see in the chat. The moment you look at the data, what are the immediate questions that come to your mind? Why the spikes is already listed out, sale events. Why is the M site conversion low? Absolutely, right? So that's a very valid question to ask. Why is the mobile site conversion low as compared to the Android app? When we are having the same experience, then why is it low? And if you see, it's a similar kind of a pattern across different weeks. It's always been lower than the Android app, right? So why is the mobile site conversion low? Okay, so that's a question that comes to your mind. Now, if you are able to increase your conversion rate, let's say, think about it. Let's say the mobile site conversion, which is right now somewhere here, If I'm able to increase it to this point, what will happen? What do you think will happen if I'm able to increase the conversion rate? Sales will increase, right? Because the conversion rate directly impacts your revenue, right? Conversion rate is equal to number of orders divided by number of visits. If I'm able to increase my conversion rate, I should be able to drive increased sales, increased revenue, which means there is a business opportunity, right? The question is, should we go after this business opportunity or not? There clearly seems to be an opportunity for us to increase our sales revenue by increasing the conversion rate on the mobile site. But is this an opportunity worth going after? Is the question. Okay. Amongst all the other things that we can do, is this a problem for us to go after? Okay. A lot of you are already saying no. All right. Okay. Why automatically saying no? We have said that, okay, whenever you have a problem statement, we have spotted a problem. This seems to be a valid problem to go after. But should we work on this or not is the question. And what have we said? We have said that we should always ask two questions which will help us understand whether to go after this problem or not. Right? So let's put those two problems to the test, those two questions to the test. One of the questions which we said we should ask is, why should we solve this problem now? Okay. The answer to that, what the data was revealing, was 15% of Flipkart's traffic was coming via the mobile browser, mobile web, mobile site. And it was growing at 50% year on year. 15% of overall Flipkart traffic was at that point in time coming via the mobile browsers, and it was growing at 50% year on year. How many of you think this is a problem worth going after? Do not compare it with any other channel. Let's say I've told you mobile site is a different team, Android is a different team, right? So there is no sharing of resources out here. Okay? You are looking at only mobile site right now. Okay? How many of you think this is worth going after looking at just this data point? That 15% of Flipkart's traffic right now is coming via the mobile website, and it is growing at 50% year on year. I see quite a few yeses and maybe a couple of no's as well. Okay. So Abhishek says no. Okay, Abhishek, why no? Why? What will convince you here? Abhishek Bajpayee?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Yes.
Sir, because gradually the mobile data is growing,
Hmm.
so it doesn't matter the how the site is going to work, because the key
Sorry,
problem is
sorry.
going
The mobile data is growing, as in?
as the traffic coming from the mobile site now.
Yes.
Or I read the question wrong.
Right now, 15% of the overall Flipkart website traffic is coming from mobile browsers. What are mobile browsers? When you open up Chrome or Safari on your smartphone, that is a mobile browser.
Yes.
Okay. And that traffic is growing at 50% year on year. Are you convinced that we should go after this?
No, sir.
Okay, why aren't you convinced?
So because if data is traffic is coming from the mobile browser, it's for the tier 2 or tier 3 cities, it's doesn't look good, because in villages or small area it's became gradually a problem for the company. So it's always be good to have a application which the traffic should come from mobile Flipkart application
but
only.
okay, fair enough. It should come from the apps, but right, you do not control what the user does, right? You cannot either you shut down the mobile site. Correct?
No, sir. No, sir. But if the users, some users are using, they don't want to share their mobile direct. They don't want to do not want to share their data directly from the tier 1, tier 2 cities. No, the data is going to share with the company. But if a tier, basically it's a data, because the thing is, some people don't want to keep the at that time they don't want to keep the apps in the phone, as
Okay, so
nowadays
what are
it's
you going to
happening.
do now? So, okay, so fair enough, right? You're saying that, okay, users do not want. So, what are you going to do here? You will let it be as is, or what are you going to do? Because your conversion rate is lower, right? The
Sir,
business teams, tell me,
I will let it be as it is, because I
let
will
it be basically. Okay,
yes,
got it.
I
So, you're
will
basically saying,
focus
I do
on
not care
application.
whether it is a conversion on the lower side. I do not care about it. Let the more traffic come and let it leak. I'm okay with it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. According to
Okay.
me.
According to you. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Unfortunately, not everyone is that charitable in the corporate organizations, right? And in the corporate world, basically, the exact question that we were asked from the business teams was like, okay, you guys had a lot of PR for your fancy new technology, etc., but it has not helped the business. And the business teams basically came and told us, why can't we redirect the traffic which is coming on the mobile site to the app? Okay.
Arindam, I have a doubt here.
Yes,
I have a
please.
small doubt here. So, in 2015, you said it was 2G. So, did the network
Mhm.
grow to 3G by 2016?
So Geo launched in 2017, just for reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, it was still
Okay.
the 2G state level
Absolutely,
of
yes.
network.
Again, keep in
Okay.
mind, right now in hindsight, you can say a lot of things, but back then you did not have a crystal ball to know Geo is going to launch 2 years later. Okay. And what Geo is going to do, we had no idea about that.
All right. Okay.
Okay. So that's the world that we live in always, right? You do not know what is going to happen in the future. And that's why strategy becomes so very important, right? Where grounded strategy is very important, right? But this was the situation, right? So again, I understand some of you might not be fully convinced. So, which is where the second question actually comes in, which is what is the value that you can unlock if you are able to solve this problem or go after this opportunity, which is increase the conversion rate of the mobile site and increase it to a level which basically matches up to the Android app. What is the value that can be unlocked? Okay. And the answer to that was this: 1,000 crores of incremental annual revenue, 1,000 crores of additional annual revenue, and almost a 10% increase in new customers. 1,000 crores of additional annual revenue and almost 10% increase in new customers. Anyone not yet convinced after this? Anyone wants to let go of 1,000 crores? Just for reference, just for reference. Recently, you might have seen Physics Wala did its IPO, right? Physics Wala's revenue, annual revenue, the entire company's annual revenue is around 2,000 crores or so. The entire company's revenue is that. Here we are talking about one single problem statement of improving conversion rate for one single channel of mobile site. If you're able to do that, you're going to basically give 1,000 crores additional revenue for the company. And this is 2015. Okay. So the scale at which we are operating was very, very different. Okay. And unless someone has lived that scale, it is very hard to actually put it into words what scale means, right? This is what scale means. Okay. Some of you might be thinking, okay, how did you come up with the 1,000 crore number, right? This is where your KPI trees come into play, right? Revenue, I can write it as number of orders multiplied by average order value. Right? Number of orders, I can write it as conversion rate multiplied by number of visits. Because how did I write conversion rate earlier? Conversion rate is equal to number of orders divided by number of visits. So number of orders can be written as conversion rate multiplied by number of visits. Correct? So if my conversion rate increases by X percentage without any increase in visits, then my revenue will also increase by X percentage. Right? What am I saying out here? I am basically saying my M site conversion rate, I will go from here to here. So if this is an increase of X percentage, then if my conversion rate increases by X percentage, my revenue is also going to increase by X percentage. So I can calculate my increase in revenue by calculating the opportunity of increasing the conversion rate. That is how I get this 1,000 crores. Similarly, you can do it in terms, write the equation in terms of number of customers also, and you will get that. Okay? Is everyone clear about how we've arrived at this? Give me a quick yes in the chat.
Hello.
So that, yes.
I think I got confused.
Yes.
So when you showed the graph, right, that the arrow went to the Android version. So how did you get to the number of 1,000 crores?
I just showed, no? Revenue is equal to number of orders multiplied by average order value.
Correct. No, but exact number 1,000 crores.
Oh, that's what I just showed. No? Okay. Let's say these are the two graphs, right, of conversion rate. This is Android and this is mobile site. Okay?
Okay.
Let's say the difference is 5%.
Okay.
Okay? I have broken down revenue as number of orders multiplied by average order value. Revenue is equal to conversion rate multiplied by number of visits multiplied by average order value.
Okay.
Right? So if my conversion rate increases by this 5%, my revenue will also increase by 5%, right?
Yes.
So if I put the numbers, I put the numbers, obviously I cannot disclose all the numbers out here. So if you put all the numbers, you get the incremental revenue.
Correct. No. The revenue, how the revenue will get increased, I got that part. But how do you get the 1,000 crore number?
You put the numbers for each, no? Number of visits will be a number, right?
Okay.
If I put, say, 30 million as the number of visits, if I put average order value as 700, if I put increase in conversion rate as 5%, then you will get a value, right, in revenue.
Okay. So the 1,000 crore that you have put is just an assumption, right?
Why
Because
assumption?
you don't have the numbers, right? So how did you come?
Which number do you not have?
The conversion rate.
So
This is the
see, as
difference. I'm telling you, I have
managers-
the number. Just one sec, right? Just one sec. I'll come to you. I have the number. What do you mean by I do not have the number?
I don't know how to ask this.
So the graph that is there, I have the number for Android. I have the number for mobile site. Right? That's how I've been able to create the graph, correct?
I think I got the question. Like, Praneeth, so the thing is, basically, if you revisit the previous question and come to this, there is already that number of 1,000 crore. So 1,000 crore is the value that we will be generating by solving that particular problem. So that's the 1,000 crore, because this is 2,000.
This is the estimated impact.
Yeah.
This is the estimated impact. Remember in the second week we did impact mapping. What is the impact magnitude? You're basically creating a size of the opportunity. What is the size of the opportunity if I'm able to do it?
Okay, got it.
Okay. Yes, Firoz?
So in last case study, Devansh focus on the loyalty thing, like the gold user. So here we can say if we go to the graph, the gold user for Flipkart, gold
There is
user
no
will be
gold
like
user out here in Flipkart.
who are the more number of conversion.
Okay.
Like let's say there are the more number of conversion is coming from Android.
But we're talking about mobile site out here, I told you specifically.
Okay. So let's say if we want to focus more on Android thing, because we
You
are
can
getting more number
focus.
of Android, because we are getting more number of
Okay. Okay.
orders from
So,
Android only.
no, hold on. Right?
Okay.
There are two different teams. Okay. There is a mobile site team, there is an Android team. Either you say mobile site team, go on a vacation, we don't need you. We don't care about mobile site. That is one strategy. The other strategy is basically you have to figure out what to do with your mobile site. You cannot let it be there when people are coming there, right?
Okay.
Correct? Let's say you are getting users from Meta also, from Google Ads also. Okay?
Okay.
Now, let's say your Meta is performing and Google Ads, you're getting users, but it's not optimized yet. Are you going to say, I'm not going to run ads on Google at all? No, right? You're going to figure out how to optimize your Google search or Google Ads channel.
Yeah.
Correct? That's the same thing here.
Okay.
Okay? Ashneet?
Hi, Arindam. Actually, my question is that say here we are considering that 1,000 crore incremental annual revenue will come by increasing the mobile site conversion rate by 5%, right? If I were to assume that AOV of Android and M site both are equivalent, I can bring in the same revenue by increasing, say, Android's conversion rate from say 25% to 30%, right? Matlab
Sure.
the incremental value can also come from other ways. Why this way?
Right.
Should we do some sort of deep dive to understand how are the user behaviors different
Right.
in order to understand if
So, which is
if
where
this
I was telling
problem-
you, right? So, think about it in this way you have three different channels. Okay?
yeah.
You have an Android app, you have an iOS app, you have a mobile site app, and you have the desktop site.
ठीक
Correct?
है, correct. Okay.
Four channels, right?
और हाँ.
Either you say that I'm going to run only Android app and desktop site. I don't want to run mobile site and iOS app. I can do that. Either that's a call that you take, or you basically say, no, I'm going to run all the channels because I don't control the user's preferences. It's a user's choice how they want to access me. I'll be there across the board. Okay? If you basically go with that thought process that I'll be there wherever users are searching for me, wherever users want to access me with, then you have to figure out how do you get the maximum value from that channel, right? You cannot just have a channel and not work on it.
But let's say the attach of that channel is relatively lower than Android. If that were the case.
Fair enough, right? So I'll give you a very other data point as well, right? You know that in India and most markets except for the US, in India, for example, 90% of people are on Android and only 10% are on iOS.
Okay.
Amongst smartphones, right? That's a
Okay.
known number, right?
Okay.
Does that mean I don't have an iOS app?
Does that mean I don't have an iOS app? As in?
Only 10%. The number of people I'll get from iOS is very, very less, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Does that mean I should never have an iOS app? No, right?
No.
Exactly, my man. The same thing here as well. You have created a channel. Now it's the user's prerogative how they want to use it. You cannot say that, okay, no, I will shut down my website. And by the way, at Flipkart, we have tried that out also, right? So I can tell you with experience that this does not work. I don't know, you guys were too young perhaps at that point in time. In 2014, Flipkart tried out a strategy of shutting down the website. We did it for Myntra, and there was a big backlash from the customers. Big backlash. Because you cannot tell the customer where to actually kind of browse your site from, especially when you have launched it. If you have given them the option, then you have to stand by it.
But we can't tell them, but we can nudge them by.
No, you cannot.
Okay.
A very simple thing, right? I have nudged a lot of you to switch on your cameras. You don't have your camera switched on, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. It is very hard to change consumer behavior. Very, very hard, right?
Yeah.
Even right now, as we are speaking, I nudged you again, but yet you do not have your camera turned on, right? And here you are basically saying, I will be able to change the behavior of someone
The
who
context
I'm not
is.
even talking to, right?
Got it.
Okay. And that's why I'm trying to help you guys understand it sounds very easy to change human behavior. It is the hardest thing possible to change human behavior. Otherwise, everyone would have become a Gandhi, no, in this world.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to business decisions like these, it's
Hmm.
very important for us to understand that what we are trying to achieve cannot be done by forcefully trying to get people to do it. The moment you apply force on someone, it might work in the short term. Most often, it will not work. Okay?
Okay. Got it.
Right? Okay, frame.
Hello, sir. I want to ask about the average order value. Like revenue is number of order times average order value. So in Flipkart's business, this average order value is like the actual value of the order times the
Yes.
percentage of share by Flipkart.
No, average order value is the what is the average size of the order, which is how much is someone spending every time they're ordering
But
on
the whole
average.
profit will not go to Flipkart. It will go to merchant. Then why we
We
are
are not talking about profit. No, we're talking about revenues.
okay only revenues. Got it.
Manisha.
Hi, Arindam. I have one question, and again, I mean, it's a doubt. More like, what are we exactly doing here? Are we optimizing the Flipkart site for mobile web users to match
Mhm.
the conversion rate to Android,
That's correct.
or
That's
I
correct.
mean, are we redirecting the
No, there is no
users?
redirecting business, right?
Okay.
Redirecting was a solution that came from the business because the business
Mm-hmm.
team basically said that I'm bringing traffic. Think about the marketing team. What does the marketing team do? The marketing team basically said I'm bringing traffic to your site. Your site is not able to convert. So should I bring traffic to your site at all, or should I bring traffic to the app?
Okay.
That was the marketing team's perspective. The business team's perspective was my mobile site. People are coming, but they are not converting, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So they started basically saying that why can't we ask, kind of, why can't we put a banner on the mobile site saying to get a better experience, go ahead and install the app. So
Okay.
these are solutions that were coming from the business teams. Business teams typically you'll find are very solution minded. They're not
Okay.
problem focused. They don't try to understand the problem deeply enough. They'll just throw solutions which come to your mind. Like a lot of you, when you started the fellowship, also, I'm pretty sure you had that mindset. You will think solutions first, right? Without understanding the problem out here, right? But here, what we are basically saying is that no, this is a valid channel. A lot of people are coming to this particular channel, right? Via Google search, via other sites and things like that, right? I cannot suddenly ask them to not do that, right? I am having a channel which people are using, but my problem is I'm not able to convert them. So then
Yeah.
the question comes, how do I increase that conversion out here?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, Pritesh?
Sir, I had one doubt. As in 1 year, our market share for M site was 15% and it was growing by 50% year on year. So,
Not market share, the
uh,
overall share. So basically, let's say there are 100 visitors who are coming to Flipkart on a daily basis. Okay, where are they coming from? They are coming from Android, they are coming from iOS app, they are coming from mobile site, and they are coming from the desktop web version on the laptop. Okay. So typically you would see like about 60% coming via Android app, 5% coming via iOS, 15% coming via mobile site, and the remaining 20% coming via desktop at that point in time.
Okay, so it was just the percentage share of number of visitors and not the revenue which was being
No,
generated.
not the revenue. Revenue was much lower, obviously, because your conversion rate was low.
Okay. And other thing you mentioned that Flipkart tried to shut down its website once. So was it just to direct and focus
No, it
its
was basically
resources?
like a lot of you were saying earlier, right? One of the thought process was like, why even bring people to the desktop or to the web version when we know it's a mobile future that we are looking at? So let's put everyone to the kind of mobile site and mobile web. We tried to shut down the desktop version, basically. Okay.
Okay.
Because we
Sir, but
saw a future which was basically, so right now also if you look at the desktop share of any site is usually 5% or less. Most of the traffic comes via the kind of mobile apps and mobile site. Across most sites you'll find that.
Sir, but
Okay.
nowadays also means for most of the companies, the light version also has lot of market share, and light version basically
It
is
does. Yeah.
website
Mummy,
No,
based
no,
only,
no.
right?
There are two things.
mummy.
When we say website, one is website being consumed on the laptop, a bigger screen, and the second is a website being consumed on the smartphone. Two very different things.
Okay. Thank you.
Ankit?
Hi, Arindam. So my question was, you said that we were the first using the progressive web app technology, right?
Mm.
We were the first in the world or in India?
Yeah, in the world.
Okay, so during that time, what were our competitors doing? Were they also using this same, or the gap that was there in the market that helped us achieve this target? Was
See, at
that
that
one of the
point in time, it was mostly Flipkart and Snapdeal. Amazon had not entered into the scene there. Amazon entered it around 2015, 2016, just entered, right? Uh, Snapdeal did not have a lot of technology focus, to be very honest. It was more of a banya business than anything else. So yeah, so we were by far the leaders, and we had to shape the e-commerce future. That's basically how we looked at it. Yeah.
Thank
Ekamjot?
you.
Good morning. I wanted to ask a question related to decision making. Like in this case, we are solving for conversions, but should we only focus on one metric, or we also need to take different things into account? For example, average order value. Once the conversion happens, is the average order value higher or
Different
lower
problem
than the
statement.
end order?
Each one is a very different product outcome. Think about it in that way. Your revenue is written as conversion rate multiplied by visits multiplied by average order value. Three different metrics out there. Conversion rate is one, visits is one, average order value is one. If you increase any one of these three, your revenue is going to increase. Okay, so
Okay.
three different product outcomes, three different focus areas. Praneeth?
Arindam, I'm sorry, I have the same question again. The
Hmm.
1000 crore incremental annual revenue. So I just wrote down the numbers. So let's say if the Android has 10,000 crores of revenue, and if you're trying to fill the gap, say let's say to 10%, right? The graph that we draw, right? So if we focus on the mobile site version, and as we said, 10% increase will lead to 1,000 crore of incremental revenue from M site, right? So that is how we got to this 1,000 crore number. We can say if we just
Okay,
fill in the
so
number.
okay, I don't know how else to explain this. Okay, so think about this particular equation. We are talking about conversion rate. Okay,
Okay.
we are talking about conversion rate multiplied by visits
Hmm.
multiplied by average order value. This is what revenue is equal to. Revenue for the M site.
Correct.
So revenue for the M site is equal to conversion rate of the M site multiplied by visits on the M site multiplied by average order value on the M site. Correct?
Correct.
I know the average order value on the M site from the data I have.
Hmm.
I know the visits that are coming to the M site, right? I know my conversion rate on the M site.
Hmm.
Okay. Now think of a new conversion rate. Instead of the current conversion rate, increase it by 5%.
Okay.
Right?
Hmm.
That will help me increase my revenue also by 5%, assuming these two are going to be remaining equal.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll be able to calculate what is the increase in revenue.
Correct.
That
So,
increase in revenue was coming as 1,000 crores.
correct. So, no, we. This 5% increase.
5% is a number that I'm giving you. It is not the actual number. I cannot disclose the actual number.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Okay. Got it. Okay.
It is basically X is equal to Y multiplied by 1 plus 5%. Right?
Hmm.
I cannot believe I'm teaching you guys arithmetic out here, but that is what it has come down to, right? This revenue, this X, right? This new revenue is equal to the old revenue plus the 5% increase.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Got it.
All right. Pallavi, yes, last question before we move forward.
Nice.
So hi Arindam, I agree that whatever we are discussing, but other channel also we should not stop, no, because some part
No,
of
we're
work
not
is coming
stopping. We're
from
not
there.
stopping. Absolutely, we're not. We're talking only about mobile site. See, in organizations, what happens is
Okay.
there are different teams,
Hmm.
right? You're not comparing, okay, this team will work on that versus this. That's a very different discussion. That's why I said upfront that there are different teams. There is a mobile site team, there is a Android app team. It is not that the Android app team will stop working on it. They will work on the Android app conversion rate and other things on the Android app, right?
Okay, sure, thanks.
All right. Okay. So I hope now all of you are convinced, right? This should not have taken that much time, but I'm glad that you guys asked the question, and I'm hoping this actually helped clarify. These two questions, always remember, will help you figure out whether this is a problem worth going after or not, because you're understanding the value that you're going to unlock. And the second is you are understanding the urgency. These two questions are always very, very important, right? So, what is the opportunity that we are going after to increase the mobile site conversion rate from year to year, right? That is the opportunity at play. Okay. Just like in the previous week, we said if we are able to increase the number of reviewers or the percentage of reviewers from 5% to 6%, then there is a 20% increase in the overall reviews written. It's a similar thing. If I'm able to increase the mobile site conversion from this to this point, I'm to increase my conversion rate by this particular percentage, which is going to lead to 1,000 crores of incremental revenue. Then the question comes down to is why is there such a big conversion difference to begin with? Now we are going to dig deeper into the problem. The opportunity is clear. We have figured out this is worth going after because of the size and the urgency. Now we are going to understand, right, the problem deeper. Okay, what is actually causing this big difference in conversion? Okay, and for that we will first look at the user funnel, like look at what conversion rate is. Conversion rate is defined as number of orders divided by number of visits. Orders is the last part of the shopping funnel, visits is the top part of the shopping funnel. Okay, how does the user usually navigate or shop before going to orders? You usually will start with the home page. From the home page, you will search or hit any of these merchandising banners, come on the search or the browse results page. From here, then you will go to the product details page. On the product details page, you will perhaps hit a add to cart or buy now, go to the cart and then the checkout and then finally payments and order confirmation screen, right? These are the different steps. Add to cart, going forward, I'll refer to as A to C. Buy now, I'll refer to as BN. Okay. This is the typical flow of a user. This is the user journey. Okay. Now, using this user journey, let's try to break down conversion rate. Okay. Conversion rate is written as number of orders divided by number of visits. Correct? From visit to orders, there are multiple different steps that the user is going through. Search, browse page, product page, add to cart, checkout, payments, then order confirmation. That's how you get to orders. So if I have to write orders by visit, I can write it as orders divided by number of visits to order confirmation page multiplied by orders or multiplied by visits to order confirmation page divided by visits to payments page multiplied by visits to payments page to checkout page and so on and so forth. This is going back to your class 1 and class 2 arithmetic wherein we learned A by D is equal to A by B multiplied by B by C multiplied by C by D. Right? A by D can be written like this. So orders by visit, I can write it as orders divided by this, multiplied by this, divided by this, multiplied by this, divided by this, multiplied by this, divided by this, and so on and so forth. Correct? Everyone following this? Give me a quick yes if you have followed this. This is basically how I can write it. Right? Orders by visit is equal to orders divided by visits on order confirmation, multiplied by visits on order confirmation divided by visits on payments page, multiplied by visits on payments page divided by visits on checkout, and so on and so forth till I get to the rest of the funnel. Right? Now, if you think about it mathematically, if I am actually comparing orders by visit for the mobile site and orders by visit for the Android app, that's the comparison that I'm doing. If orders by visit for mobile site is lower than orders by visit on the Android app, that means one or more of these fractions on the mobile site is lower than that of the Android app. Has to be mathematically. Correct? Followed? If orders by visit divided by orders by visit for mobile site is lower than the orders by visit for the Android app, and orders by visit is broken down into these different fractions, then one or more of these fractions for the mobile site will be lower than that of the Android app. Okay? And using this particular thought process, what we are going to try and figure out is which part of the funnel is the mobile site lagging as compared to the Android app. And this will help us understand, is the mobile site performing worse off at a certain part of the funnel as compared to the other parts. Okay? Why do we do it? Because this is the problem breakdown wherein we are trying to narrow down the problem. Okay? So if the right hand bar indicates the difference in conversion rate between the mobile site and the Android app, when we looked at the data basically showed us that this difference is being caused by these different stages of the funnel where the mobile site is actually performing lower as compared to the Android app. The red bar indicates that and the mobile site is performing worse as compared to the Android app at that part of the funnel. And the solitary green bar indicates that at this stage of the funnel, the mobile site is actually doing better than the Android app. Okay? Remind me to tell you later in the session, at the end of the session, why this was actually happening, the solitary green bar. But what we saw from the data was that at each different stage of the funnel, there was a difference in the mobile site and the Android app performance. For example, the bounced visits on mobile site was higher as compared to the Android app, and that was leading to a certain percentage of the conversion difference. The drop off from search page to the product page was higher on the mobile site as compared to the Android app. But the biggest culprit of them all was the drop off from the add to cart or buy now stage to the checkout stage, where the drop off on mobile site was way higher as compared to the Android app. Okay, so this entire conversion difference between the mobile site and the Android app was being explained by this data visualization. This is a data visualization technique which we call as the waterfall chart. Okay, now looking at this data, which area, if you were to choose one particular area to focus on to move forward, which stage would you focus on? Let's see in the chat. The add to cart stage, right? Because this is the one which causes the biggest impact, right? This is the one where the biggest impact is going to be realized if you are able to attack this particular problem, right? So then the next question was, what is happening at this stage of the funnel that the drop off on the mobile site is so high as compared to the Android app? Why is there such a huge drop off at the add to cart or buy now stage of the funnel on the mobile site as compared to the Android app? Okay. So again, we looked at the data, and the data basically showed us a few things. Now think about what happens. The site, they tell me this. What happens when you hit add to cart or buy now? What happens?
I mean, if I'm hitting it, I mean, one by one, yeah,
No, you can hit it only one by one. You cannot hit both the buttons together, right? What happens
if I
when
hit
when you
on
hit?
add to cart, then like my product will get added to cart. If I hit on buy now, then it'll take me to the payments page.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
The address, address option.
Okay. All right.
That is done while I'm registering already.
It opens
So
up
this
a
is
drawer,
basically
right?
this is basically what happens when you are biased. Okay, you have used these apps so many times that this is like, yeah, this is what happens, right? I'll go to the cart, right? But if you look carefully, that is not what the user flow is. The user flow is basically once there is a click, there is a login step. Just because you are already logged in a lot of the apps that you use, you never see the login step. But try using a site where you do not have an address or do not have a login created, right? 9 out of 10 times you will actually have a login step. Okay. So when you are actually looking at the user flows, you have to be very, very clear about what is the user flow out here. Okay. And when we looked at the data again, if you think about what is causing the difference between this drop off between mobile site and the Android app, we found that a large part of this difference was coming because of unsuccessful logins. Okay. The number of clicks per product page visit, page load problems were contributing a bit, but the majority of the problem was coming from unsuccessful logins. Okay. Everyone following so far? Give me a quick yes if you followed so far. Yeah. All right. So, but we are still not clear. Yes, Ovia, yes, go ahead. Question.
Yeah, so what do you mean by unsuccessful login? So as in like how will it create a difference in add to buy or cart? So if it is an unsuccessful login, the person is getting dropped off at first place itself, no? So how is it even getting?
They will not go to checkout, no? That's exactly the thing. What is the stage of the funnel? Between add to cart or buy now and to the checkout page, there is a drop off happening between these two.
Yeah, I get it. But so you mean to say that these three are the only three factors that is leading?
These were the three which came out. These are the three which came out in the data analysis.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. So now the question is like, what is causing such a high rate of unsuccessful logins? Why are people having such a high percentage of unsuccessful logins? What is happening there? We still do not know that. Data will always tell you what is happening. It will never tell you why that is happening. Okay. So we looked at the data one more time, going to the absolute granular most step, right? So we are telling me this: when you get a login screen, what are the possible things that you can do?
You're asking what do we usually see, or
Yeah, well, what are the typical actions that you can take on a
probably
login screen?
enter your email ID or number,
Okay.
enter your password, or otherwise
Okay.
sign up with Google is something that is
Okay.
a filtration step that's coming.
Okay.
And with Flipkart, I don't know earlier if we had this OTP option, but
That's okay. You don't have to talk about Flipkart. I'm just saying any other actions that you can take as a user.
yeah, only
Yes.
then login.
That's it. You always log in whenever you see a login screen.
Sometimes some of the other websites they do give like OTP.
Think as a user. Think as a user. The user is dropping off. Now think about why might a user drop off at the login stage.
Sometimes we have to put so many details, and user may feel very, uncomfortable to share all the basic
Okay,
details.
the user is not comfortable. But what are the possible actions of the user which can lead to a drop off?
The wait time, the loading time.
The loading time, okay, that can, if it's continuously loading, if it's not actually letting you sign in, that can lead to a drop off. What else?
Non-visibility of login button.
Non-visibility of the login button itself, okay, all right.
Maybe
Might not have an account.
Might not have an account, okay.
Yes, login access.
Maybe he or she is not getting the OTP.
Not having enough login options
OTP
like
is not
login
loading.
via mobile number and like
Got
that.
it.
the
You
president
all for-
asking if you're a robot or something, enter the reCAPTCHA, all those kind of
Okay.
things.
You all
Forgetting the
forgot the
password.
biggest reason.
Forgetting the
And OTP
password
is not loading.
is mind me.
OTP not
Forgot
received.
the
OTP is login.
biggest
Lack of
okay,
OTP.
great. So-
Forgetting the password.
Okay.
Forgetting the password.
Okay. All right.
Entering the wrong
User
details.
registration.
All right. Let's move forward. You forgot the most important one, which is people just don't want to log in.
Exactly. It disrupts the flow, I think.
Right. That is what is called as bounce. Many times it happens with all of you also, right? The moment you see a login, no, I don't want to log in. Right? Happens?
Yes.
Now that's basically what we were also seeing. One was a huge bounce rate, which means the login screen came up and then they did not take any action, they exited from there. Okay? That was one of the largest culprits. And the other one was they were entering a password or getting into a forgot password flow and they are dropping off from there. These two were the biggest culprits leading to the difference in unsuccessful logins between the mobile site and the Android app. Think about where did we start from? We basically started from the point wherein we were seeing a difference in conversion rate between the mobile site and the Android app. And then we started going deeper to try and understand why, and the data was actually helping us dig deeper. Whenever you're doing research, quantitative research is one of the things that you've learned about in the previous week. In quantitative research, we are talking about data, the user behavior data, which is helping you understand what is it that the users are doing. That data will usually point you in the right direction. Okay, that this is what is happening. But you still do not know why are they bouncing from that login page or why are they actually dropping off from the forgot password flow. You do not understand the why of it yet. You understand what is happening. You understand there is a drop off happening at that part of the funnel, which is leading to this big conversion difference, but you still do not know why that is happening. Okay? So, Prasanna, now tell me, what are you going to do next? You cannot have any more access to data. You have gone to the absolute granular most level of data. You do not have any more data to look at, but you still do not know the why. So, what are you going to do next?
So essentially, we have figured out primarily that's a behavior issue. So maybe if we
What
could,
behavior issue?
like just people don't want to give up their details.
But why? You don't know that, right?
Yeah.
People are no. It's not that people don't want to give their details. What you have found out so far is that people are not logging in. You do not know why they are not logging
Hi, Anand.
in. Hmm.
Yeah, can we also say that in the earlier graph you showed that one major part was forgetting the password. So,
Yeah.
so that can also cause
That is
to
also, so I'm combining both of those together. So they're dropping off from that login screen, right? Be that
yeah.
through the forgot password flow or through the kind of bounce from the login page. But you still do not know why. And the question is, how can you figure out the why? What will you do next out here?
Okay.
A
We can
user
form a
research. Sorry.
hypothesis.
Okay, so
Sorry.
someone said user research, right? Okay, so
Yes.
how will you do user research out here? With whom will you do user research?
We cannot do user research, right? Because they are not logged in users. So we cannot do
Exactly, right? So you do not know who these people are. So who will you talk
Okay.
to?
Okay. Okay.
Right? Someone said survey, right? You cannot run a survey also out here. Why? Because the thing is, when people are already dropping off, do you think they are going to fill in a survey? Not.
Arindam, we can do
Observe people's behavior,
we
like
can do a
maybe.
prototype of the specific part and do some
Okay.
user testing to see
With whom? Fair enough. You'll do some user testing, but usability
no,
studies is what you are
Time
talking about.
conversion.
so we will create some prototype of different login screens
No, no,
and
hold on, Pranit. Different login screens means you at least have an understanding of the problem. Different login screens, different prototypes is a solution, right? You still have not understood the problem. Then how can you act? Then you're throwing a dart in the dark,
Mhm.
right? Prasanna,
Yeah, should we do some observational study, like ask people
with
to think?
whom? With whom?
Um, Maybe just
You're
users
right,
around you.
but the
You
thing
can
is,
just provide them.
but how will you recruit those users? You do not even know who is dropping off, right?
Hmm.
So that's where the last final thing that the data is going to tell you, and that is what we did, is to identify. This is the segment definition. Okay, if you, and this is why segmentation is so very important. If you do not understand which segment you are going after, you will do the research on the absolutely the wrong set of users and you'll get the absolutely the wrong user insights. So how are we defining the segment? The segment we identified was that when we looked at the people who were dropping off, we figured out that a large part of them were coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities. How did we figure that out? From the IP address. IP address is recorded for every user visit. Whenever you're visiting any kind of site or app, etc., the IP address is always recorded. From the IP address, it is quite easy to actually figure out which city are they actually coming from with a high degree of accuracy. Okay, and when we did that analysis, we found that a majority of the users who were dropping off were coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities. Okay, remember device attribute based segmentation model, right? This is an example of that, right? You are looking at the device data, IP address, and you are trying to figure out who these users are, and that is going to give you demographic level segmentation. You are using a device attribute to get a demographic level segmentation. Okay. The second thing that we understood from the data is the people who are dropping off, we looked at their device ID also. Every user, whenever you are using a laptop or a smartphone or you're visiting an app or a site, your device is also being recorded as a device ID or as a terminal ID. Okay, so we have the millions of those device IDs, terminal IDs stored with us. And the analysis that we did was to figure out how many of those device IDs have actually featured in any transaction on Flipkart. Has there been any order placed on Flipkart through those device IDs? And in 95 or 96% of the cases, we did not find a order being placed from those particular device IDs, which basically showed us that these users were all new users to Flipkart. They had never placed an order on Flipkart before. Okay, this is basically the user behavior level segmentation. Remember recency, frequency, monetization, right? The user profile based segmentation. That is where we are talking about, right? So that is the segmentation that we got. So how are we then basically defining the segment? Coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, have never ordered on Flipkart before and should have a smartphone. Okay. And that is the brief that we gave to our user research agency, which recruited respondents which belonged to that particular matching segment profile. Okay. And that's how those respondents got recruited. This is why segmentation is so very important. Please do not ignore the segmentation part of it. If you do not get the segmentation correct, you are going to do the research on absolutely the wrong audience and you will get absolutely the wrong insights. Okay. When we did the user research, how did we do the user research? The user research was a combination of one on one focus interviews and usability testing, observational, right? Usability testing. We gave them a task and we were observing how were they completing that task. Okay. Are you able to see the pieces fit together? Whatever we have learned so far in the previous weeks and coming together, let me know in the chat with a yes if you're able to now understand how the pieces are coming together, from systems thinking concepts to breaking down business outcomes to product outcomes to user segmentation to user research, right? So now what did we find in the user research? It's a very interesting finding that we had. The finding was that most of these users were completely alien to the concept of an email password level authentication. At that time, we had an email and password based login system.
Yes.
Okay. And I still remember their facial expressions when we were doing the usability study. The moment that screen would come up asking them to enter their email and password, they would be like, "Ye pata nahi kya puch raha hai. I don't know what you're asking me for in this particular screen." Right? I do not know what is email, what is password. They did not know what it is. Why? Because if you think about it, their first exposure to the world of internet was through a WhatsApp. Do you have a password or an email based login on WhatsApp? No. See how behaviors get molded. Their first exposure to the world of internet was through a WhatsApp. The second exposure to the world of internet was through Facebook. Facebook also had moved to a phone number based login at that point in time, which basically meant their behavior was like, if I have to get in into a site or an app, I need to enter my phone number. That's it. That is their learned behavior. And here we were asking them to enter something called email and password, which was a new behavior for them. And they were completely lost. Okay. So when we did the research, we figured this particular thing out and we came back and we thought that, oh, we have cracked the problem now, right? We have understood what is the issue. So we did all the user journey mapping, we created the personas, etc. We were doing the debrief with the team. And when we were doing the debrief, an engineer was actually sitting in the room who basically asked a question. The engineer asked this question that I understand what you guys are talking about, but I have a question which basically is that you said that most of these users are Android users. And you said, yes, that's correct. So her question was, if they are Android users, how come they could actually boot up their phone, which requires you to enter an email and password, and now they do not have an email and password? How can you say that they do not know what email password login is, because their entire phone is set up based on email and password? Because if you think about an Android boot up, it will ask you to enter your email and password, right? So how is that possible? And we were stumped. We said like, okay, we do not have an answer to that. And at that point, I felt like, okay, we have missed something very big. Okay. We went ahead and redid the research. talk to those same set of users again. Okay.
Mummy.
And when we did that research all over again, we figured out that a lot of times they were not the ones who were setting up their phone. Some of them said, "Oh, the phone I bought from a shopkeeper, he set it up for me." Someone said, "Oh, I did not set it up. My kid set it up for me. My nephew set it up for me." In systems thinking, we talk about actors, remember? And in actors, there are primary actors and secondary actors. Okay? So here there was a secondary actor at play which we had not understood. We actually visited some of these stores where there was a big hoarding outside, a big banner outside. Install WhatsApp, Facebook, and other popular apps with only 50 rupees. They were charging 50 rupees for it. I am not kidding, right? This is how it was actually working. Okay? And it was a very different distribution channel altogether. Right?
Mummy.
So doing this research deeply
Mummy.
helped us understand what was actually going on. All right. So let's now see how all these pieces fit together. Whenever you're trying to frame a problem, there are 6 questions that you should always get answers to, which will help you frame the problem in the right way. The first question is, what is the true problem? The problem is defined based on what is it that the user is facing. Conversion is not the problem. You cannot say the conversion of the M site is low, that is the problem. No, that is an opportunity. That is from a business standpoint. Opportunity is always defined from the business standpoint. So please note this down. I've seen a lot of people make this mistake. Opportunity sizing is always from the business perspective. Problem definition is always from the user perspective. Okay? Opportunity sizing is always from the business perspective. Problem definition is always from the user perspective. The second question is, who is facing the problem? This is where you define the user segment and the personas. Third is, how do you know it is a real problem? Have you validated it? This is where your data and user research findings come in. Next is, what is the value generated by solving this problem? This is where your opportunity sizing comes in, the impact mapping part of it. And finally, why should we think about solving this problem now, which is the urgency part of it. So in this case, what is it that we said? What is the true problem? Users are not able to log in using email and password because they are alien to these authentication methods. Who are these users that we are talking about? These are primarily from tier 2 plus cities who are not digital natives and have never transacted on online shopping platforms before. How do we know it is a real problem? Data suggests that we are seeing drop offs at the login stage. We have validated it with user research. What is the value generated by solving this problem for the target customers and for the business? For the business, we have done that before. Almost 1,000 crores of incremental annual revenue and 10% increase in new customers. Why should we think about solving this problem now? Because the mobile site is experiencing a surge in traffic and it's already growing 50% year on year and is already right now 15% of overall Flipkart traffic.
Okay. Why site user traffic?
In one slide, 6 questions getting answered helps every stakeholder to understand what are you going after, why are you going after this, and why is this important. We had a meeting with Kalyan and Sriram. Kalyan is the group CEO, Sriram is the group CFO. It was a 30-minute meeting wherein I was pitching that this is the problem that we should be working on. The meeting ended in 15 minutes, did not even take 30 minutes. This was the only slide that I presented. Obviously, I had backup slides as well in case he asks for it. But he saw this and he said, like, this is what Sriram's comment was. This is the biggest growth driver for Flipkart this year that can happen. That year, we ended up delivering close to actually 1,000 crores of incremental revenue just by working on this particular problem statement. Okay. And this is what problem framing actually does, right? If you frame the problem well, it allows you to rally and align stakeholders very, very fast. Okay? Always keep this in mind. Opportunity is defined from the business perspective. The problem is always defined from the user perspective. Okay? Our job as designers, as product managers, as business analysts is not to address every customer opportunity. Our job is to address customer opportunities that help us drive our desired business outcome. Remember what we are going after, increasing market share in tier 2, tier 3 cities. If you have to increase market share, how is market share measured? In terms of number of customers, in terms of the revenue. If you have to break down revenue, and a lot of those tier 2, tier 3 city users were not able to install the Flipkart app, which means they were coming to the mobile site because of that. Which means you have to think about conversion on mobile site because that's a growth lever there. Okay? How do you spot these problems or opportunities? Focus on the metrics. If you have an existing product, that's what we did. Talking to customers or talking to potential customers will help you understand why they are behaving the way that they are behaving. And finally, looking at macro trends, industry patterns, ecosystem patterns can often help you there, right? Which is what we saw in this case, also focusing on market share increase for tier 2, tier 3 cities, because we saw a lot of smartphones being bought by tier 2, tier 3 city users. Okay. So how did we actually arrive here, right? We started off, if you think about it, the business outcomes help us understand the why. From the business outcomes, you go to the product outcomes using the KPI tree approach, breaking down the problem, which helps you what are the areas to focus on. From there, you actually segment the users, do the user research to go deeper into the opportunities to help you understand who are we actually targeting. And then you actually bring it all together through the problem opportunity framing. And once you have that, the solutions automatically present themselves, right? Now think about it. The problem is very clear in front of all of you. A segment of users are coming to the mobile site, not able to log in because they do not know what is email and password. Okay? What are the solutions that you can think of? Let's see. Put that in the chat. What are the solutions that come to your mind to solve this problem? Mobile number OTP based login. Okay, that's one possible solution. Guest login, second possible solution. Biometric login, third possible solution. Social login, fourth possible solution. Okay, so there are multiple solutions that are coming to your mind now, right? Very clear in terms of focus. All of them addressing a very specific problem of users not being able to log in. We're talking about phone number OTP based login. We're talking about guest login. We're talking about biometric login. We're talking about Google login or social logins. Okay. Now we are going to think about how do you actually figure out the right solutions. You've come up with 4 different solution ideas, right? Coming up with ideas always is something which is best done in a collaborative way, because many times we think it is my job to come up with the solution as a designer or as a product manager, as a business analyst. No. If you bring all the minds together, like I brought all of you together, see how fast you got so many different ideas there, right? Do not judge the ideas up front. First, get all the ideas out there. Once you have all the ideas, then we need to figure out which idea to pursue. Now we are getting into the solution space. Okay. Always remember that human nature, our nature is to fall in love with our ideas. Right? We think that our ideas are the best. Each one of you who has come up with your idea thinks that your idea is the best. Right? And it is very natural for us to think that way. But as a designer, as a product manager, as an analyst, that is exactly the human nature that you need to combat, that you need to fight. Okay? Otherwise, you will not be able to solve the problem. Your job is to solve the problem because that's where growth will come from. Your job is not to just work on the solution. Okay? So, to begin with that process, you need to first understand a very simple thing, which is all solutions are not equal. These 4 solution ideas that you came up with: mobile number and OTP based solution, guest login, what was the third one? Social login, right, and biometric login. All the four are valid solutions, but they are not equal. Okay. And now you need to figure out what is different and which solution is the best suited to solve the problem for this particular segment. Remember, you have to solve the problem for this particular segment. Okay, don't lose sight of the user segment you're solving for. Don't lose sight of the segment you're solving for. Okay, to do that, there are four checks that you need to apply. Okay, these are the four solutions that we have. What I want you to now think about is which of these solutions is failing any of these checks. Okay, so let's go step by step. The first check is, have you considered all the actors and their requirements when you are thinking about the solution? All the possible actors and their requirements. Which of these solutions might fail? Which of these four solutions might fail this check? Think very carefully about it. Okay, biometric recognition, biometric based thing will fail. Why are you saying biometric based thing will fail? Let's see. Why will it fail? All the actors. Think about all the actors. Who are the different actors?
Yeah, Arindam, the first time the people are their grandchild, maybe the son is setting up the phone, right? So you know, then the biometric might be there. So the
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
then that might be the reason. One reason.
Okay.
Uh,
Back in.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. Sometimes we try to log in with different devices as well. Like someday, if my friend wants my ID, I have to give it to them. And if I have registered with my own biometrics, it will not be possible for him to
Right.
log in into his device.
Exactly.
This won't work.
So what happens is many times you'll find in a particular household, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and this is 2015, don't forget that it is not 2026. At that point in time, a lot of households had only one smartphone being shared by multiple people. Okay, so multiple actors out here, one device for the entire family, for the entire household. So your biometric oftentimes can actually fail. Okay, out of the four solutions, one has already failed in the first check. Let's see the second check, which is, does the proposed solution, address the problem and the desired product outcome? Why is this check out here? Because many times when we get into the solution space, we get so excited about a particular solution, we forget the problem statement that we have gone into. Okay, you have to think about problem solution pairs. The reason why I say this is because in the previous cohort, there was one person who said, I will give an incentive to log in. Okay. And I was like, but the problem is not about incentive. The problem is that they are alien to the world of email and password. The person became so obsessed about the solution, they forgot what the problem was. And many times you'll find yourself also getting into that particular trap. Okay. That is a solution minded thought process. Because the solution has come to your mind, you are basically thinking, I'll throw that solution. Right. And in interviews, it happens a lot because you are thinking under pressure and many people will just jump onto the solution. No. Okay. So make sure you are always making a problem solution pair. This is the problem. Write down the problem that the users in this particular segment are unable to use email and password. So you have to find an authentication solution. You cannot have an incentive as a solution. Okay. So that is the second check. In this case, all the remaining three solutions are passing, correct? Because they're all solving the necessary kind of problem out here. The third check is all about the four product risks. Okay, what are the four product risks? The first risk is a value risk, the second risk is a usability risk, third risk is a feasibility risk, and fourth risk is a viability risk. What is a value risk? will this create value for the users? Will users find it valuable? Only if users find it. When do users find it valuable? When it is helping them solve a problem that they're facing. If users find something valuable, then they will adopt it. The first thing to look at is it actually adding value to your users, to that chosen user segment? Don't forget the user segment. Second is, will my users be able to use this? Usability. You can come up with a very complicated thing which never people will never use, right? So the second thing is usability. Are people able to use it? The third thing is about feasibility. Can I build it with the available resources? Okay. And the fourth is viability. Is it aligned with our business model or product strategy and so on? Okay. Let's go one by one out here. You have three solutions remaining: phone number, mobile and OTP based solution, guest login, and social login. Okay. First risk that we are talking about is value risk. Do you think all the three solutions will actually pass the value risk? Do you think people will find value? Mobile number OTP based, will they find value? Sure, because they're used to WhatsApp and Facebook. They're already doing it, they'll find value there, right? Social login, do you think they're going to find value? Sure, because they're used to Google login, Facebook login. Okay. Guest login, will they find value? Sure, they don't have to enter anything. Free flow, right? Next, look at usability risk. Will they be able to use it? Phone number OTP, will they be able to use it? Yes, they are able to use it on WhatsApp and Facebook. They'll be able to use it. Guest login, will they be able to use it? We are not asking for much. They should be able to use it there. Social login, will they be able to use it, or would they want to use it is the question rather. Because what we found in our testing, user testing and the prototype testing part of it, is a lot of users expressed apprehension on using social login. Why? Because they were thinking that whatever I'm doing on this site now will get posted onto Facebook. I don't want that. I don't want other people to know what I'm buying on Flipkart. Right? So from a usability angle, the social login concept actually started failing. Okay? So you're down to two now: mobile number and OTP based login and guest login. Correct? Let's talk about feasibility. Can you build it with the available resources? Obviously, at Flipkart, it was not much of a challenge because you had a good enough team there. So for both of them, we understood that you can build it, although we understood that building a guest login is going to take a lot of effort. Okay. It is very, very hard to actually build a guest login at scale because there are so many privacy and security challenges that you'll have to overcome. Right? But you could have built it. The last thing was on viability. Does it actually align with our business strategy and product strategy? Now think about guest login. Guest login does not align with our product strategy, which is reliant on personalization. I want to drive personalized recommendations. That is what will drive a lot of my user behaviors, a lot of my user purchases. If I go with guest login, I am not storing a lot of the information. So it will defeat my personalization strategy. It will not be aligned with my personalization strategy. Okay? And this is basically how, from a viability angle, the guest login feature was not viable because it was not aligned with the strategy. Okay? So you see, we came up with multiple solutions, and now with all these different checks, we are able to filter down to the right solution. Okay? There's one more check which happens, which is the prioritizing the solutions based on impact and effort. Many times you will have multiple solutions still after these checks, and that is where you start going into the prioritizing of the solutions part. For example, remember the YouTube case? to increase the video completion rate, I can have a playback speed option also. I can have a time stamp also. I can have a most played graph also, and a bunch of different things. Which one do I go ahead with first? Is the question, right? That is where prioritizing the solutions comes in. How do you prioritize? By looking at the impact and the effort. When you look at the impact and the effort, you need to get your effort estimate from your engineering counterparts. Okay. How will they give you the effort estimate? By looking at your requirements documents, the product requirements documents, business requirement documents, the design flows that you have come up with. That will help them understand what you're trying to actually build, right? And they will now break down that particular task list and give you specific timelines in terms of how long it is going to take to build this particular feature out. Now, think about something where the effort is very high and the impact is low for that particular feature. Obviously, you don't want to do it. Why would you do it? If the impact is low and the effort is very high, you would not want to do it, right? It is like investing your money into something where the risk is very high, but the returns are very low. Would you ever invest somewhere like that? No, correct? In some cases, the effort might be low, but the impact also might be low. Does not make sense to do it right now. Add it to your backlog. Okay. If you have the time, nothing else is there on the plate, then maybe add it. Then maybe take it up. If the effort is low and the impact is very high, then you should do it now. Why wait? And that is where you will usually run A/B experiments. Okay. You will run it in a test format, expose it to a small set of audience, see whether you are getting the desired gains, etc. And then you will actually launch it to the entire set. This is where A/B experimentation comes in very, very handy. And the final one is where in a lot of organizations you'll find this impact is projected to be very high, but the effort is also projected to be very high. These are what we call as strategic initiatives in a lot of organizations. Right? In a lot of your organizations, you'll find those strategic initiatives going on. And in those cases, you will need to do a lot of research to validate it, understand that this is the right concept to go after through a lot of user testing, prototype testing, and all of that, and then only put in your resources. So let me give you an example here. At Flipkart, I launched and led the Flipkart Plus program, if you've heard about the Flipkart Plus program. That's the loyalty offering. Flipkart Plus, when we were launching, we had two options in front of us. One is to model Flipkart Plus like Amazon Prime, which is pay some money upfront and then you get a host of benefits. That's called a subscription-based loyalty model. Okay. The second model was an earned loyalty model, like your credit card miles or points, like your Starbucks. The more you purchase, the more benefits you accrue. Okay. Both are very valid concepts in the industry, but will require very different effort, right? So which direction do you go into? Okay, strategic initiative, high impact, loyalty piece offering at a Flipkart scale, right? At the same time, effort is also very high to build a lot of these things, and you cannot change direction suddenly. You cannot say that today I'm subscription based, tomorrow no, it did not work. Let me change it to earned loyalty. All marketing assets, everything is kind of combined there, right? So then, which direction do you go into? That is where concept testing or doing a lot more research on the solution to be absolutely sure of the direction is very, very important. And that's what we did. We launched a large scale concept testing wherein we were showing users different kind of concepts, the two different concepts, and we were trying to get their reactions. And interestingly, what we found was the metro audience preferred subscription based loyalty, and the tier 2, tier 3 audience preferred earned loyalty. Okay. And which is one of the reasons why Flipkart Plus initially launched with an earned loyalty model with super coins and all of that. Super coins was the currency which you would get with every purchase. and then you can redeem those currencies for different benefits, different discounts, and things like that. Okay? Because what we realized was that the tier 2, tier 3 audience is not willing to pay for something which they are not using on a regular basis. You are not shopping on Flipkart on a regular basis. Okay? And whenever you are not doing something on a regular basis, at least the tier 2, tier 3 city audience is not going to pay for it upfront. It was very, very clear. Okay? So that's why we launched Flipkart Plus along with in an earned loyalty model with super coins. And now obviously it has evolved over time. We've had new segments, and Flipkart Plus is now one of the biggest loyalty programs in the country with close to 30 million people part of Flipkart Plus program. Compared to that, Amazon Prime I think has about 12 or 13 million, right? That's the difference basically. And keep in mind, Amazon Prime was a very established kind of a program, global program, and yet in Flipkart, kind of when we launched it and we scaled it, we were able to do it just because the user insights were so very powerful. Okay, so that's basically a concept which needs more testing because wherever there is high impact and high effort, before you put all your resources, it's important to validate it. Okay, so that you are confident of the direction. Once you have narrowed down your solution set, now you know this is exactly what I want. Let's say mobile number and OTP based kind of solution is what I want to go ahead with out of all the possible solutions. Then you get into what we call as the building phase. And the building phase has three components. The first is prototyping, the second is implementation, and the third is debugging. This is where you are entering into the software development cycle. Okay. You start off with prototyping, which is now made so very kind of easy with a lot of AI tools like Lovable and all of that. And I expect all of you to actually start prototyping that, and you will anyway be doing that tomorrow in the case hours also prototyping it, right, building it out, and that becomes very, very powerful to showcase your thought process. Once you've prototyped it, then goes into the coding phase, which is implementation, where the software engineers take charge. And then once they have built out the code, then you are getting into a testing phase, right, which is called the debugging phase, where you're testing for bugs, etc., and fixing those bugs before launching it into production. And when you are actually in this building phase, it requires you to think at four levels of thinking. Okay. The first is called the logical thinking. And this is why this is important, is because this will help shape up your requirements documents. Okay. When you write your requirements documents, this is the kind of thinking that goes in. First is the logical thinking, wherein you are defining the goal and the description, what you are trying to do, why you are trying to do it, all of that. Okay. The next phase is called the analytical thinking, wherein you are defining how this feature is going to work. In the next session, we're going to learn about user flows and wireframing, wherein you are basically detailing out what happens at each step. Okay, what is the end result that you are looking for? That is the analytical thinking. You're defining it step by step by step. Then comes the computational thinking, wherein you are, and especially for product managers and business analysts who will be working with the engineers, it is important to map those features to code requirements. This is where you start interfacing with your software engineers. You are explaining this is how it's going to work, and they are basically trying to come up with the system design and the code pieces, and you're trying to make sure nothing is getting missed. And the final thing is the procedural thinking. You are thinking about all the different edge cases which may happen at some points in time, right? So let's take the example of mobile number and OTP based thing to begin with. Your goal is to build out an authentication solution with the mobile number and OTP based solution, right? Why do we want to do this? Because we have found that the problem framing canvas basically answers those six questions. So that's the why and the what of it and the who of it. And now you have figured out, okay, the solution that I'm going after is a mobile number and OTP based authentication mechanism, right? Analytical thinking, how will this feature work? Users will enter the mobile number. Upon entering the mobile number, there will be an OTP sent to the user's device on that phone number entered, and the user will have to enter the OTP. The OTP will be a 6-digit OTP. The users will be able to actually ask for the OTP to be resent after 30 seconds, right? and they can actually request an OTP only 3 times in 30 minutes and things like that, right? So this is basically detailing out how the feature is going to work, and maybe there are a few other things also that you'll have to think about. That is the analytical thinking. The next thing is the computational thinking part of it, where the software engineer is now going to figure out, okay, I have to capture the user's phone number. I have to then send an SMS to that device, which means I have to use an integration with an SMS provider like Kalera or whatever is there. I will have to hit their APIs, and I'll have to kind of send this OTP. I have to generate an OTP. So there is going to be an OTP generator. There is going to be an integration with a third party service, and I will have to figure out a timer which will keep count of the 30-second. And if there is inactivity, I will allow them to resend and things like that. Right? So they will build the systems accordingly in terms of the code. Okay. So there is an API integration, there is a storage, there is a computational element and things like that. And final thing comes as the procedural thing, which is all the edge cases, etc. Right? What happens if the user gets an OTP, okay, enters the wrong OTP, okay, and then hits resend within that particular 30 second? What is the error message that I need to show? Do I need to showcase the error message? Should the error message be check your OTP, or OTP does not mismatch? Should I send an error message which is like you cannot generate an OTP before 30 seconds, right? Or wait for 10 more seconds? Do I need to showcase a timer before which you can resend an OTP and things? These are edge cases that I'm talking about, failure cases that I'm talking about. Every user flow will always have these edge cases and all of that. Think about how frustrating is it when you enter something on the CAPTCHA and it just does not tell you what went wrong. It just says that something went wrong, right? You get frustrated as a user, right? You thought I entered the right CAPTCHA. You thought it was a V, but it ended up being a Y, right? So you need to think about all of these edge cases, error cases, etc. And that is the important part in procedural thinking. Okay. So when you're building out the solution, you have to have these 4 levels of thinking so that the solution that you're coming up with is very, very straightforward and very, very kind of robust. Right. Now, in this particular solution, I'll tell you why it became very complex. Okay. This was 2015, 2016. At that point in time, mobile number portability, MNP, right, was just kicking in, which meant basically at that point in time earlier, people would submit or surrender a particular phone number, right? And that phone might be going to someone else, right? There was mobile number portability was not available widely back then in 2015. Okay. Now think about what is going to happen now. Let's say I enter mobile number, have a mobile number based login. Okay. Let's say Manisha has an account with Flipkart with her phone number. Manisha now decides to change her phone number. She surrenders her old phone number. That old phone number goes to Pragya. Pragya takes up a new number. She gets that old number. She does not know it belongs to Manisha. Right? Pragya now starts entering an account or creating an account on Flipkart, and she enters her phone number. And she finds that she can have access to Manisha's entire account. Right? She finds Manisha has 2000 rupees as e-gift vouchers. And Pragya is like, okay, free money, let me buy. Manisha is thinking, who is buying my stuff from my money? Okay. So these are edge cases that you'll have to think about. These are use cases that you have to think about whenever you're thinking about a solution. Which is why I always say in product building, solution is the least glamorous part. Why? Because you have to think in such a deep manner, and you will always miss out on some of the other things. You will always, 100% of the time. In 1.5 decades of my life, like you can say I'm a bad kind of a product builder, but I have missed out something or the other every single time. It's impossible to think through all the use cases. It's very, very difficult because you do not know which user is going to react in which way. Okay. So, so far, if you were thinking, if you came into this fellowship thinking that solutioning is the glamorous part of product building, I hope by now you would understand, okay, I don't want to just focus on solutions. Problem space is a lot more exciting there. Right? And that's how it should be, honestly. Right? So this is basically kind of where I would stop out here. But I hope you're able to understand how the pieces are coming together, where we started off from with systems thinking, how we broke down the business outcomes to product outcomes, and then did the opportunity sizing, understood the user segments, understood how to do user research, and now we have defined the problem using the problem framing canvas, and now getting into the solution space, how to kind of how to ideate different solutions, how to filter out and prioritize the solution based on the four checks, and once you have the solution, how to think about the solution with the four levels of thinking, right? With this, now you are moving on to the next session, which will be focused on user flows and wireframes, which will go even further into a particular solution so that you know what is going to happen at each step of the user and you're going to draft that out. And that is what is going to help you in getting into the prototype part of it going forward, right? So that's basically the thought process, right? Yeah, I think we'll stop out here, take a few questions as well, and request you all to fill up the poll as well. Yes, Praneeth, go ahead.
I, I will have four questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. So the four product checks that you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those were we do those before the user research or after the user research?
After, yeah, after. The four levels of thinking, you mean? Or
Yeah, four product checks. Divided.
four product checks. The four, these are product risks actually, right? So you're actually evaluating each solution on these four product risks. So you have different solution ideas, and for each solution idea, think about it as grading a solution idea. You're grading it on these four different parameters, four product risks.
After user research, like or before user research?
Sometimes it can require user research because for a particular solution, if you might want to understand are you a users able to use it. So you how will you know that through usability
But
studies?
in Flipkart case, you mentioned right. Flipkart did one-to-one interview.
We did the user research, and that is where we understood the hesitance towards social logs.
Okay. Okay. So one-to-one user interviews were there, right? So
In this case, we did one-to-one. Yes.
correct. So why do we need then product checks? Because we already have the data about how the users are using this.
No, no. The user checks is basically the way of thinking. See, otherwise you will do a particular research without knowing why you are doing. The why has to be clear whenever you're doing any research, right? Whether you're trying to find the problem or whether you're trying to validate a solution, you should be very clear about what am I trying to learn with the user research. Never do user research just for the sake of user research, just because there is a check box and I have to check box user research. No, you should be very clear. This is what I want to learn. This is what I want to validate. And the way to learn or validate this is through this particular research tool. Similarly, be very clear about which research methodology to use at which point in time. Sometimes you may not need a survey at all. Sometimes just a qualitative research is all that you would need. Sometimes you might get all the answers from the data itself. Using the data is also a form of research. Never forget that.
So there is no systematic method, right? It can be before or after. Like
It can, yeah.
figure that out.
That is why it is called as generative user research and evaluative user research. Generative user research is something which you do before even uh, understanding what is the problem to go after. For example, one of the generative user research studies that we did in Flipkart was what constitutes trust in online shopping. Very broad problem statement, right? Nothing to do with the product. Versus evaluative research, we basically were trying to figure out what is it that users remember from the homepage of Flipkart. Because this would help us in redesigning the homepage of Flipkart. Evaluative research. We are evaluating how users are using it. Other is generative research.
So evaluative, basically, we have to talk to the users.
In both cases, you will have to talk, right? Sometimes, like it depends on what you're trying to learn.
So in generative, we first come up with the ideas and then we speak to the users, right? And
no, generative sometimes like what constitutes trust in online shopping. You don't have any idea. You are basically trying to understand how users think about trust. Right? What constitutes trust?
Okay. So I have a few questions. When obviously Facebook had the resources, that is why they can hire a user agency, they can do all the interviews. But what about the
In
companies?
smaller companies, typically product managers, product designers will be asked to do that, right? Um, in bigger companies, you will have a user research team. In even bigger companies, you will actually have user research agencies along with user research teams.
So, but the companies for the starting up has to rely on the external data only, right? Uh, they cannot go.
Which is where your team members will have to speak to your customers. See, there's no alternative to that. This is one thing which AI cannot do for you.
Right, right, right. So speak to the customers, right? In
Yes.
Facebook case, we didn't know the customers, right? We just had their IP address kind of sort, and then we went to the tier two, tier three cities, and then we get the data from the user research, right? That we.
Right.
But for the startups, they cannot do that, right? So
Why
they
can't
don't
you
even
do
know
that?
they don't even
Why
know the
can't they do? So, which is where you need to figure out, right? So there are two forms of research that I'm talking about. Right? One is where you do not even know the segment, okay, and you're trying to figure out which segment to go after. For example, when we started Nextly, we were basically thinking of doing something in the learning space in the upskilling part, but which segment to go after? We weren't clear, and which is where we talked to multiple people, aspiring folks, those who were already existing designers, product managers, and different segments. We tried to figure out, okay, what are the problems that they're facing, right? And that helped us to narrow down to the segment that we want to focus on.
user segmentation.
Segment is one of the most important parts. If you get your segment wrong, the rest of it will always be wrong. Okay. Pallavi?
Thank you.
So, hi, I was thinking, can we have more than one solution also? Like, you came out, you,
Absolutely. That's when you
okay.
will. That's why I gave you the example of the YouTube increasing the video completion rate, right? Your playback speed also addresses that. Your timestamps also addresses that. Your most played graph also addresses that, right? And that is where you're
Why?
prioritizing which one to launch first, which one to launch next, and things like that.
Okay. And also, just to ease out the solution here, what we have discussed just now. So, mobile number would be there in the database because they have logged in at the first time, right? Mobile number
No,
would
they
not
have
be
not.
changed.
On mobile side, they don't. This is mobile side. Don't forget.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it. Yeah, thanks.
Vishal? Okay, so some of you are asking me about the green bar. So before I answer Vishal's question, so this was one step of the funnel where the mobile site was doing better as compared to the Android app, right? And we were very curious what was happening at that particular step. And what we realized was on the Android app, we had in the page where you have to enter your address, there was a call to action saying use my current location, right? There was a button which basically once you hit that button, it would pre-populate based on the smartphone's GPS, right? And the Android app had that, and the mobile site did not have that call to action. Now, what was happening on the Android app was that many times you'll find that also when you use this button, use my current location, it pre-fills your address, but it oftentimes fills the wrong address, right? And you'll have to edit it and all that. It adds to an additional friction point. Okay, and that is what we found that on the Android app we had that call to action, which was leading to people actually kind of dropping off at that part because the wrong address had been created or entered because of that use my current location button. Whereas on the mobile site, that was not the case because we did not have the call to action to do. No button was there. So that was the reason why at that part of the funnel, the Android app was doing worse as compared to the mobile side. Yes, Vishal.
Yeah, hi sir. So we you told us that it's impossible to take account of all the use cases or edge cases in one go. So my question is regarding that only. So this is about decision making in the product space and in normal professional life also. That when should we know that this is enough, that our effort is enough, our time is enough, and we should move ahead with what we have as of
Yeah,
now.
so when collectively your team has come up with all the use cases and the edge cases that you could have thought of, and you have built that out, typically that would cover 80-90%, right? Because, and that's why we always say solutioning should be a collaborative process because different people will come up with different pieces. You may not have thought of something else, your software engineer might have thought of something else, right? So, So that's basically how I look at it. If the team has come up with all the different use cases and you are able to cover that, I think that should be enough to launch. And then you'll learn quite a few things after launch.
Okay, so and that will be also be true if we are the only one making the decision. Well, I'm not talking about this user only thing.
If you're the only one making the decision, then so yeah, like there's no other thing, right? But yeah, try to always have a collaborative space in solution. It will be a much better solution versus if you are operating alone.
Yeah, sir. I was asking that if we are not talking about this product only thing, okay, like let's talk about completing a milestone or project only, anything. That when should we know that we are enough, we are doing enough research or enough effort on that, and we should move ahead with what we have.
When you are feeling confident about the way forward. For example, if you think about the conversion problem statement that we are going after, at what stage did we start feeling confident about the direction of the solution? When the insight came in that people were not able to log in using email and password,
Okay.
right? Before that stage, you were thinking of different solutions, but you were not absolutely clear of the direction of the solution. Okay. So in product building, as you move through the different steps of the building process, you will find that your confidence should ideally keep increasing.
Understood.
Okay. Roshan?
The one you said, right? The detect my location wala part, right? In the
Hmm.
app also at around 2015 era. So basically they would also write the location itself from their end, right? But in the website also they will have to again write that, right? Means point is
On the
ki,
website, we did not have that feature.
no, when you do, yeah, I understand that when you do the detect to location, it gives the wrong address, then you have the option to edit, right? And then you can write your own address there.
Yeah.
So in the both of the
Same.
cases, at the ultimatum, you write both of your address. So where is the nudge coming from?
On the mobile side, we did not even have that feature. That's what I'm saying. They had to anyway enter everything.
You are saying about the detect my location wala feature on the Chrome browser, right?
Yes, that was not there at that point in time on the mobile side. It was there on the app.
Also, one more thing, like the user surveys, right, which you
Hmm.
spoke about, I didn't understand to whom you conveyed, like the point where we didn't knew the
So,
users, right?
so again, I've often found that many people default to using survey as the research method. It is often the wrong method to use, right? So it is the easiest method that you can think of, but it is the wrong method many times. Okay. So you should be very clear about when to use a survey. For example, in this particular case, when people are dropping off from a particular page, I don't think they are going to fill up a survey for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's absolutely the wrong survey mechanism on there. Second is survey always helps you understand how many people are saying something. Okay. For example, in your organization, you would have a lot of HR surveys. Why? Because the HR team is trying to understand how many employees are feeling kind of good about their workplace, right? You actually may not be feeling good about your workplace. You may be looking to move out, but you would respond in a different way. You would say, I'm feeling good about it, right? So always remember that in surveys, what people say, you are trying to capture how many people are saying something, but does not necessarily mean that is what they actually feel also. So it gives you only a directional sense many times. It does not give you an actual sense, which is why surveys, which is a quantitative research tool, always has to be backed up with qualitative research if you really want to understand the why.
That
That's
means
why
surveys will become invalid in front of interviewing people, right?
it is not invalid. It oftentimes will be just a directional part of it. It will not give you the full picture, right? Because think about it in this way. Let's say so at NextLeap also when we did research on people, I'm trying to find out how people were practicing for interviews, right? On the survey, basically they said that okay, I practice for interviews with my peers, etc., and all of that, right? And they said this is the challenge that I'm facing, right, with peer mock interviews, etc. But when we actually went deeper to talk to them one on one, etc., that's when we realized that The challenge with peer mock interviews lies on several fronts. It is on finding the right peer, scheduling with the right peer, not getting the feedback from the peer because both are at the same level, etc., and all of those particular. Right? Now, those are things which usually people will not be able to articulate very well in the survey. Okay,
So
so
that's
which
why
is where
the user survey means we need to spend time on that, or we can directly go ahead with interview.
it depends on what you're trying to learn. That's what I said, right?
Acha.
If you do not have any understanding of the behaviors at all, then perhaps a survey will help you narrow it down first and then you follow it up with a qualitative
Okay.
answer. But in some cases, you might be very clear, okay, this is what I know users are doing. And then I will just go deep to understand this pattern only with qualitative research. I do not need a survey.
Got it.
Okay. So, for example, if I have to figure out why people have their cameras turned off right now, I will not do a survey. It makes no sense for me to do a survey out here. I would much rather basically talk to a few of you to understand that.
Okay.
Right? Pritish?
Sir, I had one means inquiry. Means I had one curiosity-based question, and that was Flipkart launched its Black membership program last year in the month of August.
Yeah.
So you had been a part of Flipkart team. I want to know your take on the same. Was it just to be
Yeah,
as
so
part
a
of
lot
its
of things
direct
have
competitor?
yeah, so a lot of things have changed since so I left Flipkart more than 5 years ago, by the way, right? So it's been 5 years since I left Flipkart. So a lot of things have changed, but there is a focus on a certain segment in metros tier ones as well, because with grocery vertical coming in, with Flipkart minutes coming in, it is entering back into the metro tier one segment, and it is entering into a category which is more subscription, more regular buying, more regular shopping. So that is basically the thought process which I guess would have gone. Yeah. Okay. Siva?
Yeah, hi, Amin. I have one. You have shown that inside versus Android app sites. So I just want to understand, like, what are the factors that are contributing lesser revenue from the inside? Like, you are saying that the inside is predominantly used in tier two, tier three cities, and if
Yeah. So yeah.
you
So
will
for
see the
mobile
mobile side,
site, if
it's
you look at it,
basically number of users.
yeah. So basically, on the mobile side, if you look at it, uh, where do people come from? A lot of people were coming from Google search. A lot of people were coming from coupon sites, and a lot of people were coming from other kind of affiliate sites, etc. Right? That's where most people were coming from. And what we found was the intent many times was lower for those people. Versus on the Android app, they are intentionally opening up the app, right, by clicking on the Flipkart app. So the intent is a lot higher, and whenever there is a difference in intent, you'll usually see a difference as well. That's why the bounce rates were higher on mobile site and things like that, right? So that's basically one of the things that we found here.
And also this that sudden spikes in when you see in the Android app in the some
The spikes were there
network
on the mobile
some
site also, by the way. It was just a smaller
but
spike because the
yeah
relative.
smaller spikes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but
So
it
why
is.
it was closed?
So again, when you look at spike, always look at it as a percentage increase from the baseline. Because the mobile site baseline was lower, obviously the spike appears smaller. But if you look at it from a percentage increase, it's the same increase in both.
Okay, got it. And also one more thing, like let's say we are we have concluded like we come to a solution like for the website logins. We propose a solution of mobile number OTP login. So let's say if we have implemented that solution and let's say that is not working as we thought. Like in that case, what are the parameters? What are the checks that we keep track on? Like what are the outcomes that we thought, but we are not going in that direction. So how we can
Yeah,
tackle
absolutely.
those situations?
That will always happen, right? Sometimes you will go in with a solution and you might just see it's not working as well as you would have hoped. And that's where you'll have to go again and dig deep to figure out, okay, why is it not working? Is it that we got a wrong insight? Is it that the solution is not built in the right way? Is it some other problem that is happening? Is it that people are not aware of the solution? There must be some reason, right?
and which is again the next root cause analysis that you have to do to figure that out. At the end of the day, it is always around learning and iteration. If you learn, if you understand what is going wrong, why it is going wrong, then only you can improve. If you do not understand what is going wrong, why it is going wrong, then you'll never be able to improve.
Okay.
Yeah, Firoz?
Yeah.
So, my question is related, like something related to next leap. On the very first day of your introduction class, you gave us something like you guys will get 10% of money back, like if you complete all the milestone. So, I want to ask, like,
All the
this
learn
is
and public
helpful.
challenges. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I want to ask, like, this is good for users, like students. But how does it helping next leap as a product, as a business outcome?
Absolutely right. So at the end of the day, if you think about it, from next leap standpoint, we want a greater awareness also about the brand. Okay. Now,
Okay.
who is in the best position to spread awareness? You all, to be very
Okay.
honest, right?
Yeah.
So then the question is, okay, how do I actually get my learners to talk about next leap, right?
Oh.
And the best way to do it is by actually getting you to build your profile. Why do we actually do that, by the way? Is because LinkedIn has increasingly become the platform for working professionals where if you are not visible, then you are losing out.
Yeah.
And which is why we want all our learners to build out their profile. So we were trying to come up with a solution which actually merges both worlds, right? So this is basically what it does, right? The incentive is only to get someone started. I am pretty sure most people, and we've talked to so many people who have completed these challenges, they said like, yeah, the incentive is what got me started, but what got me going was not the incentive, right? It was the fact that I wanted to build my portfolio, I wanted to become visible on LinkedIn, right?
Okay.
That's basically the, yeah. Gauravi?
Yes, sir. So my question is also kind of regarding the daily challenges that we have.
Yeah.
So when I was putting in like answering the questions and everything, so one of the things that they asked was something called Z test and p value threshold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know what that was, and I just want to know, is that something we should know? I tried googling;
Yeah,
it
see,
was quite.
again, in A/B testing, right? A/B testing is a very deep domain, right? Where experimentation design is a very important component, and you'd find learning materials on that also on the portal. But when you analyze the experiment data, right, you need to figure out whether that is statistically significant or not. Okay, and that is where you use these p tests and z tests, etc. Right? Typically, it is good to know, but it is not something which you will be gauged on during interviews and things like that. The reason why we have designed the challenges in that way is to spark that curiosity, right? So that you know that there is something like this and you do not know about it. And we hope that curiosity actually takes you down the rabbit hole to start at least querying on ChatGPT or on Google search what is Z-test. That is what we are expecting as a learning behavior. Because see, we cannot teach every single thing, right? We know there are certain things which it is good to know, right? Which is not absolutely required, but again, we cannot fit it out here. So if you can actually put in that effort, sure. But our job is to spark that curiosity in you, and which is the intent behind designing the challenges like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. Shiv Prasad, yeah.
Hi. Till now, we studied about the Flipkart 2015 phrase, right? So this time, it's a 2026. The same problem statement and the same solutions are going to apply current applications and how we can apply that things.
No, it will never apply in the current situation, right? Because see, that's the difference between case study and a case analysis, right? What I am basically sharing is a case study. What you're going to go do tomorrow is a case analysis. Okay, so it is never the case that what has worked for another company will also work for a different company.
Otherwise, every single company would have become a unicorn, right? So
Okay.
that never works. What you need to think about is what is the thought process that went into it, so that you can adopt that thought process and apply it to your own context. That's the
Okay.
learning out here.
So it is not going to be the same. Different problem statement, different solutions will
Always,
be
segments
coming.
have changed, their behaviors have changed, the focus is different, right? So many different things.
Okay.
Himanshi?
One more. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like one-on-one interview, we'll taking the one-on interview. That time we have to focus on problem statement or the solution statement. Okay. Like
Completely depends on what you're trying to learn. If you're trying to learn why are users behaving the way that they are behaving. For example, the one-on-one interviews that we did in this case was why are users dropping off from the login screen? That was a different one-on-one interview. The other one-on-one interview that we did was how would they react to the different solution prototypes. One was a login or like phone number OTP based login. One was a social login. One was a guest login and things like that. That's a solution level usability testing.
okay.
Okay.
If the time permits, whenever you get a chance, can you give some example on current situations on the problem statement or
Current situation for?
problem solving or problem finding in the current applications?
Okay, sure. Okay. Himanshi?
Like when we are solving case studies or case analysis, in this problem that we discussed today, we had all the data as you were a part of the team, or maybe assuming that we had all the data. But how do we approach the case studies and case analysis when we are not aware of the data? Like we know that there are unsuccessful logins, but the companies inside would know that why are the logins unsuccessful?
Yeah, so two things out here, right? The first is the thought process, right? How are you going to approach it? For example, in the last week's case, also that you would have seen, right? There was data that was given to you, right? Even with that data, where was the challenge? The challenge was in the thought process,
Right.
right? So the data is never the problem, usually. The problem is usually in the thought process because most people struggle with, okay, how do I actually approach it? When you don't have data, we say that, okay, we don't have data. When you have data, you say there is too much data, right? So the problem is not with the data, the problem is basically with the thought process. The first thing would be to think about, okay, how in this particular case also, what was the thought process that went in? If you look at it, what did we do out here? First is we figured out, is this an opportunity worth going after? Okay. The next thing that we did was we broke down the problem further, right? Orders per visit into multiple different steps. And then we started kind of going deeper to figure out what is actually causing the problem at this particular step. At which step is it happening and why is it happening? We asked a set of why, and that's what helped us to go deeper. In some cases, we used quantitative data, in some cases, we used qualitative data. Okay, so that's the thought process, which I believe is the important part, right? If you're able to embrace that thought process, you will be able to apply it in different contexts, right? That's basically how I would suggest you to think about it.
The same goes for our milestones.
In the milestones, you would have to search for the data, right?
Right.
Because you have the AI tools, etc. You can search for the data, and we expect you to do that, right? Because that can also give you a lot of inputs. What are the things that you can search for? For example, you can go to the App Store, the Play Store. You can go to the Reddit forums. You can actually search on these AI tools as well, right? A bunch of different ways to access these data points also, right? So when you do not have data, you should try to search for that data, right? And that basically will help you to approach the problem there, right? But the first thing is that structure. That structure, once that is cleared out, I think it becomes a lot more useful. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Saloni, last question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, can we have more practical session or real life scenarios for each and every task assigned to us? For example, there was a YouTube video for a job to be done where it was about McDonald's scenario. So that was quite easy to understand how job to be done happen or how we can manage those things. So basically, we have a certain milestone or task which are there on our LMS. So can we have more practical session or a kind of videos? How do we manage it or handle
But
it?
all the sessions we try to teach through practical examples only, right?
uh, let's take an example of chat gpt. So most of us are quite confused, or I mean bit confused how we can take survey of our particular user segment. So how do we do that?
But that's the thing which you'll have to apply, right? You've been taught how to think about surveys, how to actually think about user segments. Now you have to apply.
How I apply, I have gone through some of the research, like for example, how many people uses chat gpt, I mean voice usage in India. So around 60 to 66% of student uses chat gpt voice assistant. But most of the areas are there, like there are working professionals, there are job seekers, there are homemaker and other areas who are not aware about the voice usage on ChatGPT. So I mean, how do we cover that area? Whether we should only go with the, if we have to
First choose a segment, right? First choose a segment.
exactly. So if I choose the student segment, so what
Okay.
about the rest segment?
But why would you choose a segment when that segment is already using it? Your problem statement is to drive usage of voice.
Because there, I mean, if 60% of students are using voice assistant on ChatGPT, there are rest 40% who are not
Okay, so
using.
you're basically focusing on those 40% who are not using. Okay, fair enough. So you're trying to kind of move that from 60 to 100%. Fair enough. Right? So if that is the segment that you're going after, then you have to figure out why are they not using it.
Okay, and then what about the rest segment? I want to understand that
No,
as well.
which is what I'm saying. Choose one segment and go for it. You can never build for everyone. Remember the user segmentation session also said the same thing. If you try to build for everyone, you're building for no one. Right? Choose one segment, solve for that. That itself is enough. Right? In most cases, we are not even able to solve for one segment also.
So as of now, I am targeting working professionals. So I have posted my survey on LinkedIn and even on Nextleap WhatsApp group and other product hopes group which are there. I mean, where I am there. So will it work for me or not, or are there any other platform where
Wrong question to ask. Wrong question to ask whether it will work for you or not. The right question to ask is, what is it that I'm trying to learn from this research? And is user research is the user research process that I am using through surveys, etc., is it the right process to use? And sharing it with the people that I have shared with, is it the right segment that I'm targeting given the choice that you have? You have selected working professional. Now, working professionals means right from someone 20 to 60. I don't know which one you are trying to target.
uh, age group from 25 to 34?
Why 25 to 34?
Because these are the people who are less using I mean voice assistant on ChatGPT.
Okay, so if that's your hypothesis that these are people who are using voice kind of lower than the others, right? Can you go any deeper than say 25 to 34 working professionals? Again, that's a very broad segment, 25 to 34,
Mhm.
right? Imagine the number of people who you are trying to target out there, right? Now, is there any other attribute that you would want to go after, right? There are 6 different segmentation models that we have talked about. Maybe within that, you are basically might be looking at, okay, I'm going to go after people in 25 to 34 residing in this particular location who are pro subscribers or who are something else, right? And who are using ChatGPT almost on a weekly basis. You have to have some other segmentation criteria which will help you narrow it down further, right? Otherwise, 25 to 34, you are basically saying you are targeting almost a 15-20 million base, if not more, in India.
No, I have also mentioned the demographic things, like age group or the occupation or the spoken communication languages, I mean.
Be very clear about why you are choosing a segment and what is the segment that you're choosing, right? That's the important thing. Again, it is not about which segment have you chosen. It is about why are you deciding to choose that segment. That's the important part. You can choose 25 to 34, but the question is why 25 to 34 and why not 34 to 50, right? The question is why only that segmentation based on age and not segmentation based on the user profile like a subscription tier. Those are the questions to ask.
Okay,
Are you targeting people who are in a free tier? Or are you targeting people who are in a subscribed tier? Why? Go deeper, narrow down the segment.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, understood.
All right, cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining in. I hope you are having some time. Yes, you have about 45 minutes to grab some food and